What's up, guys? Let's get back to it. In this one, we'll cover Q's drops from yesterday and, of course, President Trump being asked about QAnon during his freaking press conference. Like, holy shit, is this really happening? And literally, the first question he was asked, the reporter wasted no time in asking him right about Q. And, I mean, these are the moments that make it all worthwhile. All the videos, the countless posts, the thousands of hours that me and you and everybody out there is devoted to the movement, to the decoding, to the research, to spreading the information all across the internet in different ways. This makes it all worth it. So let's look at that question. We're going to look at the first part of it and see what was asked and how it was answered.
We'll take some questions. Yeah, please.
During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate. But I don't know much about the movement. I have heard that it is gaining in popularity, and from what I've heard, these are people that when they watch the streets of Portland, when they watch what happened in New York City in just the last 6 or 7 months, but this was starting even 4 years ago when I came here, almost 4 years, can you believe it? These are people that don't like seeing what's going on in places like Portland and places like Chicago and New York and other cities and states. And I've heard these are people that love our country and they just don't like seeing it. So I don't know really anything about it other than they do supposedly like me, and they also would like to see problems in these areas, like especially the areas that we're talking about, go away, because there's no reason the Democrats can't run a city. And if they can't, we will send in all of the federal, whether it's troops or law enforcement, whatever they'd like, we'll send them in, we'll straighten out their problem in 24 hours or less, okay?
I don't know much about it. He says, I don't know much anything about it, but then he proceeds to say all these things that he hears about the movement and what these people like and are into, and they like him and the country, and they hate seeing these things happening and all these sorts of stuff. It's masterful how he walked that tightrope answering that question. And let me just say, I'll believe Epstein killed himself before I believe that President Trump doesn't know much about Q. I mean, just the way he did this. And you see, he had to sort of plead the fifth here. He had to create some plausible deniability for himself in answering this question. Some people still aren't understanding the optics of it all and how he has to sort of dance around these things. He can't just come out and directly confirm all this stuff and say all these things about Q. You got to understand, we're playing chess, not checkers here. And it also goes to note how the media has been talking about Q and bringing it up in the questions to President Trump and the press secretary and things like this. They're not straight up point blank asking him, what is Q? What is it? Tell us about it. Are you involved in it, right? They could just do that, but they're not. They're beating around the bush. They're dancing around these questions. And for instance, asking President Trump, what are your thoughts about the followers? Do you have a message to the followers? When they write their hit pieces, it's always about the Q movement and the followers, and they tell you what they believe, and they tell you all these different narratives about it. It's never just straight to the point, of course, because it's the fake news media and they have propaganda to write. So that's important to know. President Trump goes and answers the question that's asked to him about his thoughts, and then does that so carefully, and then discusses what he thinks about the people. And really, with that answer too, he told the world, he told the public, all the normies out there, the people on the fence, the people that have never heard about it before, the people that hate it and think it's crazy, they just believe the propaganda. He told everybody that the people that follow it are into it. He hears, he understands somehow, right? I would love to, right? Why didn't the media ask him, who told you these things? Where do you understand this from? He told everybody out there they love him, they love the country, and they hate seeing what's happening. So he gave all the folks out there who never heard about it before, or on the fence about it, or just, caught wind of it somewhere, he gave them basically a green light to research into it more. He helped drop that ridicule factor, that fear factor, or that, weirdness factor of it. That's really an incredible way for a lot of people to begin taking this more seriously. Great way to answer that in focusing on that avenue of it. And now time for the second part of the question. Trust me, it gets even better from this point. So I'm going to play it right here for you.
Just real quick, at the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind?
Well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, you know, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there, and we are actually. We're saving the world from a radical left philosophy that will destroy this country, and when this country is gone, the rest of the world would follow. The rest of the world would follow. That's the importance of this country.
So the reporter says the crux of the argument is that you're secretly fighting this secret cult elite pedophile group. And is that something you're like, whoa, was this said in the White House? And the way he answers that, right? He says, well, I haven't heard about this before. Again, pleading the fifth, saying what he needs to say for the cameras. I haven't heard about this. But is that supposed to be a bad thing? Is that supposed to be a bad thing? Boom, quote of the year. Put that right up there with like the Deep State Department, right? Just amazing stuff. I need that on a shirt. So the meltdown that ensued after this was absolutely glorious. Literally everybody, every fake news pusher, every mainstream media writer, politicians out there. I saw Jeb Bush, I saw Liz Cheney, like all your standard just deep staters, cabal folk, seething at the teeth over there. There's panic, complete panic that this would get literally mentioned in the White House, asked about it. He would answer it as such. And oh my gosh, it was absolutely crazy. So this brings us into Q's drops now. In drop 4622 yesterday evening, Q said, ask yourself a very simple question, telling us to ask ourselves, why is everything regarding Q so censored, so banned, so attacked? They only expend ammunition, of course, when we're over the target. You only take flak when you're right over that target, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. That's why over the last 2 years, really, it's been almost exactly 2 years since Q's really gone mainstream, but now, of course, it's more mainstream than ever. But over the last 2 years, you've seen thousands of hit pieces written, hundreds of different videos made by the mainstream media. I mean, some people literally have their salaries paid just to write hit pieces and dig up all this shit, write propaganda against Q and smear Q followers. So it only happens because hardcore, real, legit stuff is getting exposed. And then moving on into the next drops now. 4623. Speaking of some of that hardcore stuff, we're getting into it right now. Epstein Island. Who owns the surrounding islands? Close proximity to that. Well, there's a lot of billionaires and rich folk that we'll talk about in a sec that are around there. Unique skill sets of Ghislaine Maxwell. Q links us a YouTube video, and it's a speech from Ghislaine Maxwell that she gave on behalf of her Terramar project. That's like a non-profit environmentalist, philanthropic, as they always like to pass it off as. That's a group she started way back when for, her ocean endeavors. And she gave a speech, and within this speech, she says that she is certified for submarine piloting, even unmanned underwater vehicle piloting, things like this. She's certified in a lot of stuff. Q says submarine pilot? That's definitely unusual. Most definitely, especially for a, socialite of a, in England, rich people there. Helicopter pilot too? What benefit might that serve? Well, of course, when they're trying to traffic things, it would make a lot of sense to try to keep that out of observation. Underwater sure helps. And then this next drop, Q gives us a Politico article, and we get into one of those individuals with property pretty near to Epstein's Island there, and that is none other than Joe Biden. And what a day, what a time for Q to bring this up when Joe Biden's about to accept his nomination for the presidency. Yeah, that's why they needed Q, this back channel, to put out their information they needed to get us all to understand what's going on. So this Politico article came out in January, and it says a lobbyist bought tropical land from Biden's brother. And this story is all about how Joe Biden's brother, James Biden, purchased property on an island called Water Island in the Virgin Islands. And there was all this weird financial stuff going on with the transactions. But why? You know, why are all these folks buying property so close to each other? Got Richard Branson with his own island there, and remember the Nexium folk, the Bronfmans, they had quite a large piece of property on an island in Fiji. Like, what is with all this? You can answer those questions for yourself. And then next drop, Panic in DC. Q says, yeah, absolutely. They never thought she would lose. And then this last drop we have fifth column. So let's get into the fifth column for a little bit here. The fifth column is basically intelligence community trade speak, I guess we could think of it. And a quick search brings up the fifth column being any group of people who undermine a larger group from within, usually in favor of an enemy group or nation. The activities of a fifth column can be overt or clandestine, as we're absolutely seeing all over the place right now. Forces gathered in secret can mobilize openly to assist an external attack. And a little history behind this specific term, it's conventionally credited to a Spanish general. As 4 of his army columns moved on Madrid and Spain, the general referred to his militant supporters within the capital as his, quote, fifth column, intent on undermining the loyalist government from within. So that's exactly why Q keeps highlighting infiltration over invasion right now, because that's what we're seeing everywhere. All assets all over the place are being activated, and particularly against Q, we're of course seeing the left-wing mainstream media, the typical propaganda pushers. They're writing all their articles attacking it for whatever they can. I've been seeing it called a Russian propaganda op and a virtual cult. And of course, you have the domestic terror extremist angle that they're all using. Like, these can be picked apart in many different ways. It's very easy to undo that propaganda if you've been following this closely for at least enough of a time to understand what's going on. But there's also the, I guess we could say, blue check marks on the right wing. And they're the ones that are a little more sneaky and slithery. And then you have those within these kind of alternative and conspiracy media community as well. And a lot of those assets, a lot of those infiltrators are getting activated right now too. And we're seeing just fake stuff, clickbait. A lot of them are hopping on the Q bandwagon right now to get clicks, to get attention. And maybe some of them, I don't know, are hopping on to it right now to spread disinformation for more nefarious motives. So be vigilant out there, everybody. Be careful. Don't, just hop onto really liking somebody just because they're saying something that makes you feel good or whatever the case. Take all their claims for what they are. Research deeper into them. Don't automatically believe just what people are telling you. Definitely look more into everything that's going on, absolutely everything. And I think a lot of good guys that we thought were good might turn out to be bad. Some bad guys even might turn out to be, sleepers and doing work for the good guys or leverage in some way right now. So, I don't know, it's just going to get really weird out there, folks. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions. Don't jump on loving anybody, but also don't jump on hating anybody just because of a couple claims or whatever you hear on the internet, It's up to you to figure out the truth. No one's going to do it for you. And that's all. That's it for now. Exciting times. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back soon. Take care, stay safe, and keep fighting. Peace.